I'll call the Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024, and it is 2 o'clock. Roll call first. Mary Ann Abadi, present. Muriel Bradshaw. Here. Dr. Copeland.
Here.
Dr. Giardini.
Here.
Dr. Gorski.
Here.
Dick Cooner.
Here.
Margie Lindmark. Here. Tim Beavers. Jeff Nielsen.
Here.
Mohammed Yunus. Okay, thank you. There's no public comment today, but there is 2 presentations, so we'll begin with those. The first one is the Regional Office of Education Student Support Interventionist. And I want to remind the board that we've already reviewed this proposal, and they're presenting on the questions that were asked. So, you're welcome to ask additional questions, but primarily their presentation will answer questions already asked by the board. So, we'll write it out.
Just questions. Okay, so do you want an overview of the program?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. I do have a handout that I'll pass around to my lovely assistant, pass it around. My name is Megan Hopkinson. I am the Senior Director for Student Support Services at the Regional Office of Education. I'm here today to talk to you about our student program. The gist of the program is to be able to give students a trusted adult to bridge the gap between home and school, provide a calm, safe space, support and advocate with school administration and staff decisions about education, and to support students in school and outside of school and provide regular check-ins. So this program is for students engaged for grades 4 through 12 who are considered to be at risk of academic failure and demonstrate a need for educational support or social services beyond those that can be met in a regular school program. Is the gist of the ALOP, which is Alternative Learning Opportunities Program grant, which is this. If you were able to fund the first year, that is what would fund it from there on out. So the program goals are to provide students in need of a supportive go-to adult in the building, improve student success and overall graduation rates. The student support and specialist interventionists will provide academic, behavior, SEL, and attendance support for the students. Like I said before, bridge the gap between home and school, support school and staff decisions, collaborate with school staff. Each interventionist would hold a caseload of 25 to 32 students. And those students would be pulled or worked with at least once a week, some more on a more regular daily basis, depending on the needs of the student. The interventionist has to hold a substitute teacher certificate. They follow the school schedule. They're available for before and after school needs, available for summer programming if that is something that the district that they're working in would like them to be a part of. And be that go-to adult, like I said before, for the students that are on their caseload. So the ROE provides the full-time employee to the school district, does all of the background checks, all of the things that need to go into hiring an employee to work in the school, provides the benefits, and all of the things that the training, everything to get them ready to put them actually into the schools. The district in question is required to provide a space for the staff member to work in, either a classroom or an office that they can have students come in either one at a time or in small groups to work with them. The building administrator has to be on board and be willing to provide that support and treat the staff member as, as the staff member of the school, so they're not, considered an outsider. The district gives access to the student information system so that the student support interventionists can check attendance and look at grades and be able to really work one-on-one with those students. Also to have their demographic information to be able to reach out to parents, to collaborate with them as well. And the district is who identifies the students that the interventionist would work with, either through their MTSS system, once they get to, a level, a tier 3, tier 4 intervention, or in a way that best suits their needs. So this is a proven model. It's been something that has been taking place in West 40, which is the west side of Chicago, for about 10 years. North Cook is also an area that has been using this model. They're entering their second year, as well as LaSalle County, the ROE there, number 35 is entering their second year. And each of these programs have seen a significant change in the students that they're working with, as well as an increase for, they started out with a couple in the schools, and after that, the first little bit, the districts were like, okay, how many more can you give us? This is great. These kids are really, showing improvement in behavior and academics and just their overall social emotional learning. How can we get more of these interventionists in their schools? So here's just some data from the West 40 program. 90% of the students that had goals established for attendance met those goals. 90% of the students who had goals for academic concerns successfully completed their goals. And 93% of the students that had goals based on behavior or SEL concerns successfully completed their goals in the 22-23 school year. So some of the questions that you all had about this presentation, has RPS and Harlem schools agreed in the concept to collaborate? Harlem actually, we presented this to Harlem, Belvedere, and RPS towards the end of the school year last year. Harlem has already agreed to and has 2 of these interventionists working in their schools, one at McChesney Elementary and one at high school currently. So they are in favor. RPS was in favor of it, but unfortunately the time that we presented, budgets were already in, and so they said, let's talk about this for future. We do have the SOAR program that is going on right now, which is the collaboration between us and RPS for the elementary students. And in that are kind of a pseudo role of this program without being named this program. And our thought process is to potentially be able to use some of that SOAR staff money to keep some of our staff in those buildings. They've been pushing in for how long have they been in school? A week now? A week, and have already seen some success, and they're in Macintosh right now. I've already seen some success with just having the extra staff. So how many school support or student support interventionist staff will be supported by the money that we're asking for? It could support up to 15 staff members if we were covering 100% of the cost. If districts are willing to pitch in some of the costs to help us, to offset those, we could obviously staff more in the buildings. We're currently surveying our districts to see, who would want one and how they would utilize this student support interventionist in their buildings, with a goal of having at least one in every district. So for some of our smaller districts, there potentially would not be a need to have one in each of their buildings just because they are so small. But there is a potential that they would also need one, in their buildings. So just kind of looking at that to see where the interest is. Our goal would not be to place all of our resources in Harlem and Rockford unless the little districts, said, no, thank you, we're not interested at this time. Is the ongoing funding is critical. How certain is that? So the ALAP funding is the way that this is funded. Once the students are enrolled into this student support interventionist program, they are coded in the state system as ALAP. And in that way, the evidence-based funding for that student for that period goes to the program. So therefore, it's funded for the next year. It's kind of confusing, but so it's funded, the work that we do this year will fund next year. What are the specific safety risks to students and staff in this program? There aren't any that are any other than the safety risks of students and staff in a school in any given day. So we can't say that there aren't any, but there aren't any that are above and beyond. How are students identified to go into the program? I touched on this a little bit before. The ROE works with the district. Each district has a little bit of a different process of how they identify the students. For some of the schools, for Harlem, for example, the high school, the social workers already have a list of kids that don't qualify for social work minutes, but just could use a little extra, extra support in the building. So some of those kids were the kids that were given to the interventionist when they started last week. It's super new, so that has just been going since school started. So the interventionists have only been working with kids for a couple weeks now, depending on what school they're in. How much time will be spent with a student? They will meet with the student for a minimum of 30 minutes a week. Obviously, it's subject to whether or not the students are in attendance. If they're not in attendance, then that is when they would, reach out, talk to parents, maybe do a home visit, things like that to try to find out why, they're not in attendance that day or a couple of days or, whatever it might be. And it would really be based off of what the student needs. So for some students, meeting with, their go-to person once a week and having that 30 minutes of a check-in and working on a couple things would be enough. For some kids, it's a daily check-in, when they get to school and a check-out before they leave, or maybe a check-in at lunch, or, it's very flexible in the way that it works. Our interventionists that are working in elementary schools are going out during recess and lunchtime just to kind of hang out, to see all the kids and to be a familiar face so that if they are referred, to them, that it's not scary and it's not, they're excited to go and talk. Is this an extra class or does it replace academic time? Or is it not a class? So no, it's not a class. The times that the student interventionist would pull the students would be based off of what works best for the student, what works best in the school. The other programs that we went and talked to, West 40 and LaSalle Peru, so they try to pull during the non-academic times just so that the students aren't missing out on those core subjects. However, for some kids, those core subjects are what is causing them, uncomfortableness. And so there could be a time that they're pulling them during those core subjects to help to get them through, maybe it's a test that they're taking or a lesson that they're just not understanding. And so they're acting out during that time. It could also look like the student support interventionist pushing in and coming into those classrooms, obviously knowing that they're coming in to work with, the student that's on their caseload, but being available to the whole entire class as well. And obviously, like we talked about before, to be able to do home visits or community visits if necessary. How is the program identified? So there is no stigma participating to students. School districts already use, like I talked about before, the MTSS, the 3 tiers of intervention that they're using. So that's already something that is in place in the schools. we obviously cannot guarantee 100% that there will be no stigma attached to students that are, you know, being pulled out or being worked with, but it has become very culturally normal for kids to be pulled out for things or for extra staff to come in for things. And for the most part, it's not anything that kids are pointing out. And as I mentioned before, in preparing for implementing this program in this area, we did go and talk to a couple of other very successful programs already, and they have said, you know, kids are asking, like, hey, can I go talk to, you know, so-and-so? I want to go, you know, do that kind of thing. Because it's something, you know, they make it fun while they're there. It could look like playing card games to get to know kids. It could look like, you know, working on some homework. Kids are looking for that extra support. Oh, and then I think these are just the questions again. Are there any other questions that you had? Sure.
If a student is identified who has a definable behavioral health condition, is there thoughts about a process or mechanism to get them into a downstream referral relationship when needed?
Absolutely, yeah. So our program is also a part of the IRIS program, so we have that ability to be able to make those referrals out, you know, to services when needed.
As I understand this, that you need this year funded in order to continue the program.
Correct.
And then it's sustainable from that point on.
Correct, with the ALOT funding to the state.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way that, for example, for Harlan and Belvedere, they're like paying for the, you know, the two in each district, so the 4 total this year. And with the thought process that they will continue to have that worked into their budget for next year, so they will actually have 4 for the price of 2, is the thought process behind that. So each year, if they continue to fund those 2 people, that will continue to increase by 2. So.
What is, you know?
Alternative Learning Opportunities Program is the name of the grant through the state. You know, in education, we love our acronyms.
Yeah.
And it's an acronym.
And I thought you said RPS was out when you talked about RPS.
Sure, so right now there is a collaboration between RPS and the ROE. It's called SOAR. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. It's the elementary program for the students that are struggling behaviorally or social emotionally. Right now, our staff that has been assigned to SOAR is pushing into the buildings. They're in McIntosh right now. We'll be going to Lewis Lemon and Constance Lane in the coming weeks. And then around November-ish, we'll be pulling out and they will be housed in the old Wilson Aspire building on the back half of Kennedy. That will be SOAR now. And those students that just still need a little extra time to reset, restore, connect, and be able to return back to their school, then be pulled out of their home schools, brought to that building, and then reintegrated back into their schools. So our thought process is, you know, right now they are, our staff is in there and doing kind of this sort of work for those students, and there's the potential that we may just leave a couple behind because they're already funded. So leave, you know, a staff member or 2 behind, which then could kind of roll into this program now that they're seeing the success. RPS was interested in being a part of this, but it was May, I think, when we presented to them and budgets were already done. So they said, let's talk about this next year, and then thought about this grant and thought, well, maybe we can help them out this year too, so.
One thing I'll share too, we're talking a lot so that the board understands, that's not a grant for the State Board of Ed, it's actually a program that you apply to get it, and once you're designated an ALOC program, you're always an ALOC program, so it's not like we're gonna have it 1 year, not the next year. And with evidence-based funding, once you start getting that funding from the state, it never goes down, it only goes up. You're held harmless every year, which is why the other programs have seen exponential growth, from year to year to year, where, as Megan was sharing, like a Harlem, if they have 2 this year, next year for the same budget, they would have 4, the next year they would have 6, the next year 8 continues to grow, becomes like a buy one, get one, because the state will fund it, and once it starts, the only way it doesn't stop is they completely cut those budgets out, but anything could happen in the state, but, that's a very, very stable program for alternative ed.
And our earliest had our other, we've been a part of the other ALAT program, we had
Since it's existed.
So that's a piece of Summit Academy is the ALAT program that is the credit recovery for all of Winnebago County. So it's been a funding source for a long time. I don't know how many years.
I have a question. When you talked about you facilitating family engagement and you're coordinating with community, how does that look for you guys? How do you do that above and beyond or outside of school?
Sure. So that looks like, getting kids involved in different community groups that are already taking place.
And what groups are you getting them involved in now, or what are you doing?
We've worked a lot with NIAP. NIAP has a lot of, different community groups that they do after school programs. There's the Alpha program that we have some students that have been a part of, not necessarily for the student support interventionist piece, because this is brand new. But my other hat is, the attendance intervention piece. So a lot of our kids that are struggling with attendance, we get them involved in a lot of those community programs. So we would use the same resources that we're using now.
Could you talk about, outreach into the families? I just wondered the family engagement, how that works and how you get the family involved.
Sure, yeah. So it looks a lot like phone calls, emails, text messages, home visits, meeting families where they can. Sometimes it's, hey, would you like to meet at McDonald's and I'll buy you a coffee and we can talk about your kid. Just kind of meeting the families where they are and giving them what they need to be able to engage. For a lot of families, coming into the school is not a comfortable place for them. So being that, building that relationship and being that safe person so that they then are willing to come into the school because they know you're going to be there to support them. So you're kind of like their emotional support person to be able to come to those meetings.
First, Megan, thank you for coming today. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Has anybody on the board been there, been to Summit Academy? Have you been, okay, you've been there too, then you understand it's a quality program. I've been there on a different capacity, as Megan well knows. I think it's run well. It's a quality program with a lot of quality people that I think work there, and I will speak highly of it. But I think you have a heck of a challenge. One of my board member over here said that, you're gonna have a different, how you're working with families. You can work with that kid so much, but the family is where that kid came from. That's gonna be your challenge, and I would like to hear some more follow-up on that.
Sure.
Those of us who have worked in mental health know that in order to help that kid, we had to help the family too. You're a product of your environment.
Absolutely.
So I would like to see how that works out for you, because I think it's a challenge. I'm glad you're going to take it on, and we'll see how it works out.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, any other? Hearing none. Thank you so much for coming today. All right, moving on to the next presentation, and it is Rockford Area Arts Council.
Switch it over, I'm in between stage. So you can't figure out what's good for me. Hello, I'm Mary McNamara Bernston, and I am the Executive Director over at the Rockford Area Arts Council. I have with me today Christina Valdez, who is our Finance Officer at the Arts Council. We're very excited and we're proud to share more information with you about our current program, Spark at Washington Park, and its impressive outcomes. We're here today to make a case for the mental health funds to play a critical role in continuing that program. It's a collaborative program between the Arts Council, RPS 205, and the Rockland Park District. The Arts Council has set up shop at Washington Park Community Center for the past 3 years, providing year-round arts enrichment to the over 200 kids on a consistent basis. We've received funds from RPS's Live, Learn, Play, American Relief Plan, and funds. It's a lot. Most of Washington Park's kids are from vulnerable and underserved populations. And again, we serve over 200 kids consistently. Every day, they serve over 200 kids at the community center. Spark at Washington Park has been hugely successful, and I believe it is because we provide additional alternative and attractive options for youth in the arts. Can address a variety of issues. Students may be facing stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, and behavioral challenges. Art can encourage students to express themselves in their thoughts and their feelings in a creative way. Art guides students to better understand themselves and their experiences. And it helps them work together in a team environment. Americans for the Arts informs us that youth involved in the arts are 5 times less likely to drop out of school, 2 times as likely to attend college, and 78% more likely to vote. It's compelling data. When you see those benefits of youth involved in the arts, that can seem like enough of a reason to continue this program, and I believe it is. However, with your help, we could add mental health support services, and our youth could benefit them exponentially. There are economic benefits on the mental health side. For every $1 invested in art programs, there's a $7 community return through reductions in the cost of treating illnesses such as anxiety and depression. There are behavioral benefits. Increased self-esteem and self-worth leads to better choices, healthier choices. And there are risk management benefits, mitigating some of the deep emotional peaks and valleys of pre-adolescence and adolescence. This is a strong statement on the next slide, sorry, Christina. By the American Psychiatric Association. And according to recent data provided by the Family Peace Center, local data, we know that 75% of the youth arrested for violent crime in Rockford have a documented history of exposure to domestic and or sexual violence, either as a witness or a victim. Violent behavior, of course, is a symptom and really a horrible end result. It's something that can be avoided if you have the tools to express their feelings and work through their life experiences. The youth we're serving at Washington Park Community Center, they're in a safe space. They're in a place that cares for them. The environment is unlike any other community center I've ever been in. We've all been in, I'm sure, some really special places. I believe that the Arts Council and our program can provide an additional pillar of support for them and their families, and it's a critical outlet for their personal expression. And as compelling as the Americans for the Arts data is, our local data is equally compelling. One of the benefits of working with RPS 205, along with the very complicated grant reports we have to do, is something we'd like to continue, which is, I'm sorry, I got lost. That's okay, a couple back, one forward, sorry. There you go, perfect, thanks, Christine. And according to RPS's MAP tests, so those are annual tests that assess all subject matter, math, English, science, reading, social studies. We might have experts here actually who know what MAP tests assess. But those results at Washington Park are worthy of celebration. Median growth percentile for RPS 205 students is sitting at 43, and the median growth percentile for Washington Park kids involved in the last 3 years, they've seen a 44% increase, and it's at 62. And those are the kids who are involved in our arts program. Additionally, Spark at Washington Park students experience a notable decrease in the summer slide, 15% improvement over the average RPS student. And that's huge. for, of course, teachers in the classroom, but students and their future success. So what is Washington Park and what is it, Spark at Washington Park? What does that look like? It's free year-round, expert instruction, art enrichment for over 200 youth. And in 2022, it came about in response to nationally recognized data around arts and youth development. The Arts Council approached Washington Park Community Center staff, Danielle Potter and Lee Lynch, about year-round arts enrichment through the local program. And we were met with enthusiasm and immediate engagement. And for 3 years, we provided that year-round arts enrichment with the goal straight of extending this proof of concept program to the mental health task force. So our vision includes continued collaboration with the Park District through an already established pro-youth partnership. The Arts Council and the Park District are committed to the integration of mental health curriculum and resources for Washington Park youth. Our vision includes building on what we have and connecting the community dots in that next one. Developing a critical social and emotional toolbox for youth through the arts has both the abstract and tangible benefits for the youth, but also for our entire community. And our vision includes other organizations' vision. The City of Rockford is creating healing centers at local community centers, and Washington Park Community Center is one of them. Through this double partnership now with the City of Rockford and Washington Park, the Arts Council staff can be another collaborative partner to provide referrals and recommendation and support. In addition to these trainings that are listed, Arts Council staff and artist instructors can take supplemental online training that is available to the Washington Park leadership staff, and those trainings include the impact of trauma on youth, vicarious trauma, culture and trauma, LGBTQIA and identity trauma, domestic violence and trauma, community trauma, and resiliency. So feedback has been essential to this program, to our growth and its success. We have heard from parents, we've heard from students, we've heard from Park District staff, and we've also heard from our Arts Council instructors. This program is filling a hole in the lives of these youth. Children are coming out of their shells, they are finding their voices, and kids are finding connection to themselves and their peers. If we were to use this program at Washington Park Community Center, we would be creating the whole in the community. With the help of the Mental Health Board, we'd like to strengthen this proof of concept program, integrating a strong mental health component to serve the needs and address the challenges of our region's youth. So here to answer some of those questions directly that we received from your board is Christine. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so thank you all for your time. You guys had just a few questions for us, so I wanted to take a moment to go over them. I think that Eric went over most of the questions in our presentation, but I just want to call them out specifically and see if you guys have any more questions. So the first question is, are certified birth therapists readily available for hiring? The answer is yes. The reason that we chose the model that we have chosen, which is to go to contractual employee, is because it will broaden our range to be able to pull somebody in to work in the Rockford area. They don't have to relocate here, but they can have office hours here without being a W-2 employee. We would also have the ability to interchange our therapists if we had somebody that was only able to commit to developing the curriculum, but somebody else needed to carry out the actual curriculum, moving boots to the ground, so to speak. So there is a huge appetite in areas around Rockford, areas within Rockford. I would say we definitely have our therapists, but it's really kind of the larger metropolitan areas that you find certified people. Now there was not the question, but we just wanted to kind of anticipate it as a question that since we are so close to the Wisconsin border, naturally, if it was to be anybody that was coming from the Wisconsin area, they would have to be certified in Illinois and providing services in Winnebago County directly through us. The second question is, I'm sure Spark is already up and running. The answer is yes. Mary gave you guys some testimonials and some background on our Spark program. It's been running since 2022, and we see an increase in attendance year over year. The third question is, have there been any downstream referrals for youth requiring additional mental health intervention? The answer is, we were never really set up for that in the past, and that was a huge gap that we identified in our program. We have students who trust in the instructors, who trust in the curriculum that they're being taught, who trust in their peers in this group. And so we thought it would be a huge disservice to not fill this gap, which is specifically where all of you come in. We have forged collaborative partnerships with Alignment Rockford, with the Family Peace Center, and with NAMI Northern Illinois to begin a two-way referral system so that we can really dive in and see what does this look like to refer out from our program if we have somebody who's in need of mental health guidance, further therapy, maybe an actual mental health intervention. What do we do if we have families that, it's been brought to light that the family is actually going through a hard time and not particularly just the student themselves. So we've begun these conversations so that we can make sure that we're truly capturing all areas of the referral process. And then the last question was, our processes and understandings in place to accommodate such referrals. So as I spoke, we are in the middle of having those conversations right now. We've got to a point where we feel comfortable as we stand within our funding status. So we've had really great conversations to kind of meet us where we're at. And then once we're hopefully awarded these funds, then we can continue to have some more in-depth conversations regarding the referral process. So with that, those were all the questions that were posed to us. I would open the floor for any questions for Mary and I.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
I think I understood the relationship with RPS in terms of like the testing, the lab scores and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, and if I heard you correctly, some of the ARP money was funding Spark, but
Yeah.
that's going away. So
Yes.
what is RPS's continuing?
Their continued involvement is only to provide data metrics for us in terms of measuring our students' their social emotional growth and their educational growth. With programs like this, it's very difficult to have quantitative data to measure social emotional growth. We have to look at qualitative data. However, being able to measure their growth in school, their hopefully chronic absenteeism going down with these students or in this particular school, we want to use that to be able to A, see if there are schools that need more focus, and B, just ensure that our program is working the way it's supposed to work. So RPS is not going to be a partner, so to speak. They're just going to be providing information to us that we can use to foster our program.
So in regard to that information, given the specific location that Washington Park is and the specific schools that are around there, have they shown any willingness to collaborate as relates to, I forgot the name, they have several programs like the safe handoff program, or I forgot the name of one of the programs where like if a kid is facing trauma in the community, they get the information at school so they know how to handle that kid.
Yes. We are also, through our collaboration with Alignment Rockford, we're actually going to be placed within the Healing Center Student Solutions Matrix, and that goes towards the teachers, the families, the students, the schools. And so we will, not through direct partnership with RPS 205, but through the collaboration with Alignment Rockford and their Healing Center learning model, we will still have access to whatever we need from the particular schools, and we'll still be able to have those dialogues.
And just a little more on the social emotional, we have this last year implemented social emotional self-evaluations for the kids at the beginning of our sessions and at the end of the sessions, and sometimes in the middle. And those have been really telling as well. So just more attention paid to that data that we're gathering that way, and more probably the mental health professional and our therapist, a different approach to that could be maybe more age appropriate, more timing. So I think just the introductory pieces that we've already had in terms of gauging social emotional growth and wellness has demonstrated the need already.
Reverend Copeland, I think you're referring to handle with care. That's it.
Anybody else?
Lisa, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Appreciate
welcome. Thank you,
it.
everyone.
We
Good to
appreciate
see
it.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our monthly activity. Jason, you wanna update us?
Yes, so we just had our first Learning Network collaborative meeting for the new program year, that included a few new programs and renewal programs. There's 38 total programs now with the consolidation of a few contracts that have a new program for one agency that were expansion of the existing program. So it was a really great event. All the programs attended, talked about, in addition to just getting everyone up to speed with any updates in our process. Generally, those meetings are focused on coordination of services, sharing information, learning from one another, those types of things. So it's a successful event. I want to make you aware of two opportunities coming up that board members can participate in for broader community engagement. One is the Marshmallow, well, actually on the same day, September 16th. So you can go to both back to back if you would like. Marshmallow Hope is having their grand opening for their, really I don't know if it's the first ever, but it's right now the only existing intensive outpatient program for adolescents in Winnebago County, funded by the Mental Health Board. That will be the essentially end of their kind of the finality of their accelerator work. They were really ready to, for lack of better terminology, accelerate with that, and they went pretty fast and got it spent, got the building up and running, and they're having their grand opening. So really awesome program. An opportunity for all of you to participate. If you need any additional details, let me know. And then following that, at City Hall, Rockford City Hall, that same night, I think their meetings start at 6 o'clock, I believe. They will be doing a proclamation for the CCRT and MIH program, which will include an acknowledgement of the mental health funding. So if any board members would like to participate in that or attend, you can even let me know that, and so I can preemptively pass that information along. And there may be an opportunity for a board member to go up and receive the proclamation with the funded program team.
What's the date again?
That's September 16th. Both of those are on September 16th in the afternoon for Marshmallow Hope, and then again, I believe it's, maybe Mary can confirm, is it 6 o'clock?
5:30 city council begins, and so it's like shortly after, it's during the beginning of city council, the
Okay.
proclamations.
Thanks, 5:30. Yeah. Yes.
Quick question, Jason, on the Learning Network Collaborative, have there been any, in the course of those meetings, any what I would call light bulb moments where contributors are sitting there realizing, hey, you're doing this, I'm doing this, there's an opportunity for us to share, or those things, have they been happening kind of organically?
Yeah, so the big one, I don't know if there's been a light bulb moment where it's been like a symbiotic realization of, I have this exact gap that you fill, and that sort of thing. But there have been a lot of better understanding of what some of the systemic barriers are to access to care that's helped inform us, one of which we'll be talking about today with the HIPAA compliant ride share. A lot of that conversation's been driven through the Learning Network Collaborative. And we talk about that a lot in that meeting. And that group, I think actually, when we told them that we're pending today's meeting ready to launch this thing, unpromptedly gave a round of applause. They're ready for it.
Great.
Yeah.
They need it.
They're ready for it.
Great, thank you.
Great question. And we're going to give you more updates about that, because I think I want to highlight when we do have those light bulb moments, or even if it's like flashlight moments, if it's not quite as bright as a light
Even a
bulb.
glimmer moment, because we're also interested in collaborative effort.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
That's it.
Okay, very good. We'll move down to our action items. First of all, we need a motion for the August 2024 meeting minutes.
So
Okay. Any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as printed? please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Moving into resolution authorizing funding program budgets updates for program years 4 and 6, 24 to 26. Do you have any?
Well, I'm just gonna highlight that we have kind of formalized and standardized this process a little bit more with a template now that the organizations fill out, which requires a kind of general summary of what the changes are, and then in addition to that, any line item that's changing, there's a rationale provided on that line item when you see the change. So I think it would be a little bit easier for everyone to now see what the changes are and the reason for each change. So I'm not gonna go into that because
Yeah.
that's a detailed summary now, but we do have a representative from that program, as we will always do when we present these to the board if you have questions.
Hearing any comments or questions? None. Okay, this is going to take a roll call, but we need motions first for approval. Here, here, did, second.
Beat you to it, dude.
Okay, Dick moved it, Terry, do you second? All right. Any comments? Nothing, nothing, okay, I will roll call, and that's for this, it's Andrell Bradshaw. This would be aye. Aye. Okay, aye or nay, I should say, or abstain. Dr. Copeland?
Aye.
Dr. Giardini?
Aye.
Dr. Gorski?
Aye.
Dick Cooner? Margie Linmark?
Aye.
Kim Neighbors? Jeff Nielsen?
Aye.
Mohammed Yunus? Mary Ann Abadi? Aye. So the resolution passes. Okay, moving down to the resolution authorizing the Winnebago County Mental Health Board Accelerator Awards application intake.
So this was a discussion item at the last board meeting, and we're moving forward with the board's kind of discussed recommendation to put an end date to the Accelerator Award program, along with having a kind of strategic community engagement process to make sure that the information is just kind of reminded to everyone in the community. So we appreciate that feedback from board members about that part of it being important to this. So the recommendation as drafted in the resolution, it's a recommendation, but at this point, what would be an action item would be to accept letters of interest through November 1st, and then anything that moves to a full application would have to be completed by December 1st. And then attached to that is a community engagement plan with just a few key things that we will do on our side to ensure that the information is out there. Closing of this.
And this application has been out there for how many months?
Well, it's been out there since December 1st of 2023, and it will close December 1st of 2024. So it will have been open for a full 12 months, which is pretty extensive considering how limited the time period is in a core program application. One note is there's a clerical error in the resolution that I see preparing for the meeting today. So please note we can correct this with approval, which would be that we've received, and this says number of applications. So there are 39 letters of interest, and that has led to 29 completed applications today over that period.
So that correction would be part of the motion. So we need a motion in a second. Okay, Dr. Gorski, second, and second. Second and purpose, okay. This only requires ayes. We do not have to do roll call, so. Any further comment or concerns? Not hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to our next, which is resolution 2024 X3. This is a resolution authorizing the Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board Accelerator Award preliminary review determinations for applications received. Okay, So we did receive 3 applications for accelerated awards. Yeah, it's there. There we go. I got it. Okay. And now therefore be it resolved by the Winnebago County Mental Health Board as follows. We have one proposal ready for review. That's the Amanda's St. Peter and Paul mental health program. And in section 2, the ineligible, the organization is Beautiful Beginnings Community Outreach. And the ineligibility criteria is that it's the capacity, the scale of the organization in relation to the proposal. And then we have the Kickafers Entrepreneurial Academy, and it's the empowerment through connectivity, expanding infrastructure and networks for mental health access. And the criteria for this program, becoming ineligible is the capacity and also the scale of organization in relation to the proposal. So I will need a motion approving the 3 proposals, 2 ineligible and 1 that will move forward for board approval. Yes.
Motion.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion? Yes.
Being a new guy, when
Yeah.
you say capacity and scale organization, can you explain that a little bit further for me?
So just for example, one of these organizations asked for $1,999,600. They have, I think in their 990s, they've had less than $50,000 a year. So it's mostly, the amount of ask is out of proportion with what the history of the organization is. So when we do follow-up, we always offer a follow-up meeting to these organizations, and some of the feedback that we might give them is, if they wanted to continue down the path with that program, they might like to partner with a larger organization that has a little more history of larger fiscal amounts like that.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the eligible and ineligible proposals, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. Finally, the resolution for making a recommendation to appointing authority for Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board vacancy. So Jason, I'll let you elaborate on this a little bit.
Well, essentially we had 6 board members that provided a formal review back to me, and I consolidated those or kind of synthesized those, reviewed those with Mary Ann. It was pretty clear that one applicant, based on the reviews, was kind of in his own independent tier, and then there was kind of a cohort of others that were maybe in a pretty closely reviewed as a kind of secondary tier, and then there were 2 candidates that are not named on the resolution, but whose applications will still be provided to the chairman as a appointing authority that were not recognized by any of the reviewers as having relevant skills or experiences for the board.
Okay, we'll need a motion for approval. Any further discussion or questions about this? I mean, my only comment is that it was just, there was a consensus of independent board review that one candidate really stood out, and that's the name that is going forward from the board.
Just theoretically, what is the theoretical time frame for this to be taken up at the county level and acted on?
I'm not sure about that. What I can say is that we, with approval of this from the mental health board, Mary Ann, I have drafted a letter that Mary Ann has signed, and we would submit that to the chairman along with the applications, and also let him know that should we wish to have any additional participation or feedback from the mental health board to essentially let the board know.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and, moving into our discussion items, this is a HIPAA compliant rideshare program, and I'll let Jason take this away. Very excited about it.
I'm very excited because we've been understanding this barrier for a while now and looking for solutions. The reason I have it as a discussion item today is because what legal had advised is that essentially through the direct procurement line item, that we do that through that intergovernmental agreement that the mental health board has with Region 1, because it's not a grant process. And so I want, generally what would be my intent is to include board members on an internal steering committee that we review proposals and then go through with the procurement. In this particular instance, we only received one proposal. Actually, we didn't receive any proposals during the open proposal period of time. Through our follow-up and investigation, we found a vendor that has been utilized by McHenry County Mental Health Board for several years. They are very thrilled with this vendor. And what is also nice about the particular vendor is that the vendor uses multiple rideshare providers based on what the community's assets are. So that could include Uber, Lyft, and other local companies that might provide various types of transit options. So we have received a proposal from this company. We have benchmarks based on estimates and what comparable communities use. McHenry County, when I started in this position, had $100,000 that they were using for this program, and they are now up to $240,000 a year because it gets used. We have modeled a user guideline for the funded agencies so that this is a last option. It was kind of given to me as intelligence that if that's not specifically clear, you'll go through it fast. So I want to make sure this is a last resort option, but it's available to those funded programs when there's not another transportation option. And the recommendation based on our benchmarking, which is pretty conservative actually compared to what McHenry does, would be to start at $120,000 for 1 year. That would come out of the direct procurement budget line item, which is for $300,000. This would be, at this point in time, the main purchase of that budget line item. Don't have anything of significance.
What was the name of it? What's the line item?
Direct procurement, and then it's for systems coordination, promotion, and awareness, and data and evaluation contracting that could be needed to support the evaluation program, which we haven't utilized. We've done most of that, all of that in-house. So not through the line, through our normal contracting professional services. So I just wanted to open that up for discussion because we didn't have the opportunity to engage board members directly in a steering committee as I would have done if we received multiple proposals. Thoughts on that? Please let us know that now. Your thoughts on the forward?
Is the McHenry County, when they started the program, did they have the caveat then that this is last resort funding for lines? Or was it something open?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know specifically that, but I was definitely advised that you'll want to have that program policy.
I understand that. Okay, number two. How much information or how many questions have you received from our grantees identifying transportation as a problem for many of the people?
So where it came up a lot was when we did site visits, and at the LNC. And we actually kind of strategically partner internally with our metropolitan planning organization function of the planning council, who's working on a health and transportation study, and we shared that survey. They had an open survey that we shared with them at the LNC, and a lot of those organizations filled out that survey and identified transportation's continuing as one of the major needs. When we've gone to site visits, that's been also identified as one of the major needs. Some of these programs are downtown. While we've increased the number of mobile services in town, they don't all have the ability to do that. And so it's pretty frequently identified. Like I said, we don't expect to get applause at that LNC meeting. We're coming in there talking about grant compliance and finances and what forms need to be filled out. People are pretty excited about this. Programs are exciting.
Well, I can attest to the fact that for mental health clients, that one of the greatest barriers since the beginning is transportation. So many just don't have.
So the process I'm thinking about, a person, an individual who's in an office at the agency is under treatment of the counseling and is running into difficulty, the connected dots there will be, and when jumping around, thinking when would this start, and how would that be disseminated to those agencies to know the services even available?
We'd like to start October 1st because then it aligns with the mental health board's fiscal year, so it'll be better for future budgeting. If we see that we're going right through it and the board wants to increase the amount per year, then we can align that with the fiscal year every year, which would be nice. So October 1st, we're hoping the contract can start October 1st. The agencies have been put on notice that this is likely coming. We would probably bring back a formal user guideline policy at the October board meeting and have the board approve that, and then send that out to all of the agencies with a specific protocol. How it works more functionally is that if you have a client that needs the service, they don't have another transportation option, the agency calls the vendor, and then the vendor finds the most appropriate transportation option and is scheduled for pickup to the appointment, and then if needed, also return home, door to door, for the third essentially for the service.
And this would be available throughout Winnebago County and not just the city of Rockford.
Throughout Winnebago County for the mental health board funding programs.
Okay, so we're gonna move this.
Appreciate your feedback.
All right, other matters, and I was gonna have to speak about.
So Marion asked if I would just give the board a brief update on where we're at with our accelerated award with the Community Mental Health Committee that the mayor and Shirley started. For our new board members who may or may not be aware, we granted an accelerated award to that group 335 or 250.
Yeah, it's 350 up to, but
Right.
yeah.
Up to 350,000. One of the outcomes from that committee, which I believe has been meeting close to a year ago, was they felt that it might be important to do a community-wide environmental assessment of the entire landscape of behavioral health services in our area. So they came to us, made a presentation, we made the grant for up to 350,000 for the region, so the community, the entire landscape. The concern of this board, of course, and I think it was expressed very well, is that this group, which the mayor and the chairman put together, and then the subsequent consultant, understand the work that this group has done as far as changing the landscape, given the work that we've been doing over the last several years. So Barry and I have been asked to sit with the group as part of the consultant review process. And I will take a moment to tip my hat to Dan Ross, who has been shepherding this. He's done a tremendous amount of work. identified consultants to engage them, to get proposals from them. And the first phase of that work was winnowing down 3 proposals, 3 organizations down to 2, which has happened. So now there are 2 organizations. I'm just going to ask you if I can remember the names of them. But, appear to be national firms with a history of consultative services in the arena of behavioral health. And so now the next step, when we're down to 2, to identify times to have them come in and make presentations to a subgroup of that group, that committee, which will include Marion and I, to be a participant in the selection of the consultant. So that's where that's at right now. I don't, am I missing any?
No, you're there.
So we appreciate, as appropriate, we are engaged in that process and want our voice to be heard, and simply want the consultant to understand again what this group has been doing as it fits into this entire environment of care. So that's about where it's at.
Yeah.
Questions for us or thoughts?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm curious, so, yeah.
So just one question as it relates to, I know you can't look into a crystal ball, but just in terms of timing, when do you think we're likely to get to the next step where these 2 will come in, and when are we, in general, likely to perhaps see some kind of?
If I remember correctly, from reading the proposals, I believe that the RFP had a 90-day turnaround in it from the time of selection. So that doesn't get us to the point of finding a date for this group to meet, to hear the proposals from the 2, to picking one, to them setting a time frame. I think that I have spoken to Dan Ross about it once. I believe there's a little dash of reality there, that it's possible one of them could come back and say, I'm not sure 90 days is enough, we may need 120 days. At the moment, the 90 days was put out there to get a reaction from them, given the scope of work, can they do it? Can they pull it off?
Right.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Dick?
Well, I just wanted to share with people that Dr. Charles Smith died Monday. Dr. Smith lost his daughter through suicide maybe 20 years ago. And as a result of that, made a commitment to see what he could do to help people with mental illness. And he was diligent about running peer support groups for years with a group of people. A lot of it was through Swedish American Hospital, where he had been a physician on staff. Yeah, a really good man, and really committed to trying to help people within our community. So,
Big contributor.
yeah. So,
Thank you, Dick, for that.
yeah.
Okay,
So can we have a motion for adjournment?
that's next.